Welcome to I'm Going In, the newest and hottest podcast sharing incredible stories of strength, resilience, and love. This podcast is about that moment when you face trauma or been knocked down and you decide, I'm going in. Whether it's to help yourself stand back up, to strengthen your faith, or to support others, this is where inspiration begins. Like and subscribe to my social channels and get ready to be uplifted as I introduce our next incredible guest on I'm Going In. Hey, welcome back to I'm Going In. I'm your host, Todd Blyleven. And again, this show is all about the moment that you find that moment to rise after being knocked down in your life, whether it's something that happened to you through your trauma or something that you did for someone else and it brought on trauma. It's that moment when someone has extended a hand to help you up, or you decided, you know what, I'm going in. I'm going to go in for myself, going in for my faith. I'm going into therapy. I'm going in for others. And I have two guests on today that one, we've got an incredible history through our dads, and another one that was introduced to me through faith, and just truly, truly amazing. Thank you both for being on. Brittany and Anthony Gonzalez. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm Going In.
Glad to be here.
It's our pleasure, Todd.
So, Brittany, you and I have this connection through your dad, Frank Viola, former left-handed pitcher at the major league level, and my dad, Burt Blyleven, former pitcher, and they were roommates and fishing buddies and golf buddies. And I just remember back in Minnesota, the pontoon boat trips on Lake Minnetonka. You were probably about that big. But my sister and just our families, I mean, your parents were always extremely kind. I loved being around your dad. He taught me how to throw my changeup that I think eventually got me into pro ball. And just an incredible just memory. So it's so cool to connect with you on a podcast and in life.
So cool. It was such a pleasure just recently when our dads were together and you were there, and my mom connected with you and heard more about what has been happening in your life. And then she was like, you and Brittany have to connect. And this has reignited a relationship. And it's an honor to continue to know and learn more about your story, what's been going on, and do the same, share our story.
Yeah, it's faith, right? I'm a firm believer in divine intervention, and that God puts you in places at the right time with the right people. And a lot of times we don't accept that offering. You know, maybe our lives are too busy. We don't take that like 30 seconds to realize, hey, you know what? I do have that connection. I just want to call. There's something pulling me to speak to that person. Yeah. And it ended up being a really cool conversation that we had, and it was inspiring and led us to doing this, and you and Anthony both sharing your stories today on the show. But yeah, when I got a chance to speak, that was a tough one. I went down to Florida, and I was speaking in front of my mentors. I used to always consider like people like your dad and guys like Tom Bernansky and some of those players that played back then, like my brothers, my uncles. Some of them were my second dad. You know, while my dad was out on the mound, they were taking care of me, and all the way through that whole journey of the lifestyle that we were raised in, right? Being at the ballparks all the time, and it was crazy. A lot of fun though, right? But yeah, and when I had a chance to speak with your mom after my event, and she told me about you, I had followed your journey through your athletic career, and I didn't know the back end of it though, right? And the struggles and things that I think every athlete goes through, but your story is so compelling and uplifting in the end, right? So I thought we'd maybe share or ask you to share some of your moments, your triumphs, and then where maybe things went a little south for you, and then your uplift. And then, of course, I want to get into Anthony's story because you've got a good one too. So this is cool though, because you're my first married couple on the
Hey,
show. So
let's do it.
congratulations. Yeah.
Hopefully there will be more.
Yeah. And then we're going to get into what you're doing now with Ferret Flush. And I really want to expose that too. So, Brittany, can you, I want to give you the mic on this. Can you kind of share what your journey went through, who you are, what in the athletic world, and just so our audience members can really get to know who you are and what you went through?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really fun to start where like Todd, you and I really resonate is at a baseball field. And even in childcare, I just remember childcare in the stadium. I wasn't allowed up in the stands at the time.
That's right. Yeah.
So I grew up in this sport world and I was born into it. And I give myself credit that my dad won the World Series in '87 because of my birth. Like I think I inspired him,
That's
to
right.
achieve the highest level
I
of
heard that. I heard that.
And so, our family was kind of known as an athletic family. We all kind of found our niche. And for me, I was a bit of the oddball. I started doing gymnastics around 4 or 5 years old, and I was just really good. Just a natural knack for this sport. And I just kept climbing the levels. I had great coaches around me. I got to the highest level of the sport by age 11, international elite,
Wow.
training 7, 8 hours a day in elementary school, leaving school early. And, so much of my growth has come from reflection of growing up. Sometimes you just move forward in life, but you don't really reflect, or you don't even know how to per se.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my growth and recovery, and I'll share more about the hard stuff later, but has come from reflecting on the stuff earlier on in my childhood that I dismissed, that was normalized. It was my reality. And so what else did I know? And so I'm 13 years old and I'm experiencing some really weird things. I didn't want to go to the gymnasium anymore. I wanted to get lost going to practice or get in a car accident. Like there were some thoughts that I was having that were, again, to me, kind of normal. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like if a little girl's scared to go to the gym. I had trouble putting on my leotard. I was crying in the bathroom, getting ready. And this led to me ultimately making the hardest decision of my life to quit gymnastics when I had Olympic aspirations. I wanted to be an Olympian. I was already at the highest level of the sport, and I'm not wanting to go to the gym anymore. And I hate it
Wow.
like a job. So against my mom and dad's advice, coach's advice, anyone's advice, I quit the sport that I could have gone to the Olympics in. And so I kind of like gave up my dream. And I'm so grateful. I didn't know God at the time, but man, I just love looking back and seeing like he had his hand on me and he knew I had a dream to go to the Olympics. So I'm playing around at PE. I have no sport going on in my life. I tried volleyball for a month and a half and I got like most improved player. And I'm playing around at PE doing old gymnastic skills on a diving board. And the swim coach saw me from across the pool and he's like, do you want to join our diving team? And I was like,
wow.
Sure. Like I didn't even know it was a sport. I thought you just do cannonballs off of it. Like my dad did a killer, what's it called? One that you grab one leg. Yeah. Can opener.
The jackknife. Oh, can opener.
Jackknife.
Yeah. The triple
I don't know.
Lindy.
But either way, we were celebrated because every time he did it, the splash went all the way to the screen at the top. And we're all like, oh, best dad ever. So if you didn't know, he could also do that really well besides throw a ball. So I got introduced to an Olympic diving coach that month. And within a year, I medaled internationally in the sport of diving in Mexico City.
Wow.
So this Olympic dream that I had was back on. The training hours started off small and then gradually got more intense. In the midst of this transition, puberty happens for me, a lot of relationship challenges, is where you start liking guys and, starting relationships or trying to, and relationships with friends. There were a lot of, I didn't realize how much relationships can impact your heart and your life. So I'm performing really well. I've been calling it like front stage, backstage lately. Like my front stage looked really good. I'm climbing. I'm the best in the country, like one of the top 3. I got to go to world championships at age 16, placed fourth in the world with an Olympic gold medalist, Laura Wilkinson. I was climbing all the right steps to reach my Olympic dream. And simultaneously backstage, there was a lot of turmoil, instability, fear, insecurities that were going on that I didn't know how to process, what to do with it. So I started developing what I later learned was an eating disorder. I went inpatient when I was 18 years old, had to say no to going to all of the world events to take care of myself.
Wow. Yeah.
And Todd, when you talk about I'm going in, like this was a very humbling, embarrassing reality that I didn't necessarily know how to maneuver. How are you like the best in the world front stage, and in the back you're like at the lowest of your low?
Yeah.
And then the low, it like the backstage started affecting the front stage, where I knew like I'm climbing up the stairs thinking about what other people are thinking about me versus the dive that I could lose my life, if I'm not focused, right?
Right.
You
Right.
were
Yeah.
high dive. You weren't just, 1 meter springboard, which is hard to
Right.
do,
Yeah.
but you were a 10-meter platform. So
Yeah.
for those who may not
Jumping
know,
off a 3-story building kind of thing with lots of flips and
Into a small little pail of water.
about a little fail, but yeah. So I went
Wow.
inpatient, and that was my biggest low. And who helped me find that facility was I had the courage to tell my mom that I was really struggling. I was eating crazy amounts of food in private. And I was getting rid of the food through forms that were unhealthy and hurting my body.
Mm.
Um, and so I was able to tell her that, and she was able to get me the help I needed.
Did Such a powerful story right there, and thank you for sharing. I love your perception, I love the way you think about it, where it's a front stage, backstage piece, because so many of us try to have this outer shell that's tough. We move forward. Maybe sometimes we're forced to do that because of our job, because we're parents. You can't show the weakness. And you hit a word that I use a lot. You had the courage
Mm.
to say something. And that courage is all about strength, right? It's all about fortitude, perseverance, resilience. It's a tough, tough word. And what you did in your weakest moment is you grabbed onto that tough word and you pulled yourself up. And you said, you know what, I have the courage. I'm going to do this. And you went out, because I can't imagine. So I can only imagine that, especially for an athlete at your caliber, or really anybody that suffers with uh, an eating disorder, it's embarrassing. I've never had an eating disorder, thankfully, but I've had friends that have, and you hear the stories, especially as a parent, where your daughter, your son, is really kind of withering away and all these unhealthy habits and things. So it's really powerful that you had the courage to be able to say something. Was there a moment when somebody maybe said something to you? Did you look yourself in the mirror? Were you hovering over this toilet at some point? Was there something that happened that sparked that? Or was it just a feeling of enough is enough? I can't keep doing this.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a mix of those. So
Okay.
the thing that really took me over the edge was literally hovering over a toilet. And I was like, I want to make myself throw up. And that was something that I hadn't done. It's one of the things that I hate the most in life. And so when I hit that moment of like, why would I voluntarily do something that I hate? So like something's way off. I just
Yeah.
knew like I'm way off right now.
Hmm.
And so when I hit that moment, I was like, I need help. This is not okay. Another moment for me was I was working at a restaurant at the time as a server, and I started stealing food, like binging on food that I
Hmm.
hadn't paid for. And it was like I needed it. But it was like logically, I was like, this is so silly. Like, what am I doing? This is outside of my character, outside it, but it's like I
Yeah.
had lost control. And for me, a big thing that I love just, controlling what you can in life. After having
Right.
kids, I have surrendered that desire. Like, I have
Yeah.
no control. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And all right. So I have to know, standing up on that 3-story platform and looking down, the concentration that you need, right, to go into that. But you've got to be scared out of your mind. Does it get to a point where is it just so routine driven to where you're just, all right, I've got this routine. I know my steps. I'm going to hit it perfect. And then I'm going to do my thing. And I'm going to land in the water at this given moment. And I'm just trusting that my routine has taken me this far. Or is it pure adaptive based on like elements around you?
Yeah. Well, I think I was conditioned to do like, I say stupid things, things that are like life threatening. From gymnastics all the way into my diving. Like there was a buildup of this courage and this bravery to trust my coach that I wasn't going to die. And that's still always in the back of your head that you could get seriously injured doing what I was doing. So I would say the way that I would describe it is there's fear that for me never went away. Just the fear intensity was a little bit lower so I could overcome, but the fear was always there. So I would say like for someone, maybe if you go up there, Todd, and I tell you to do something, you would be like 100% fear. Like you'd be like, absolutely not. Like I will die. But after my training and conditioning and having the coach support and the repetitions, I'd say I was more at like a 5 or a 10, of fear. And so the percentage of that emotion was not restricting. It was enough to say, I can do this and I'm going to step into it. I'm going to trust this process that I've been in. So yeah, the fear was there though, Todd. I can't tell you time. I was like, this is so fun. I'm just so comfortable. Like there was not comfort was not a thing.
Especially when the wind starts blowing or something.
When the wind blows, yeah, that was not fun, especially when you're doing a handstand on the platform at the edge. But it's cool, like thinking back at our
I love Todd's face change when you mentioned a handstand.
I was thinking, with our dads though, I mean, really, I think there is a little bit of like in me, our dads had to have this focus in the midst of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in the stands, and who knows how many on television, to keep the composure and do what you've been trained to do. Like that was a training. And also I think a gifting our fathers had.
Yeah, there's been several movies that have kind of displayed that. Kevin Costner had a movie where he was a pitcher for the Giants. I think it's called The Game or The Perfect Game, and he's on the mound and you can hear everything, all the noise, and then all of a sudden he says, "Okay, focus," and everything goes shit, and it goes right into the catcher's glove, and you lose all the sound, and that really does happen. I mean, I've pitched in front of thousands of people myself and been on stage and you have to have that focus, but my point with you getting up on that platform and having that fear and then the trust that you had in your routine and your coach to get to that point to dive off and land in that water is very similar to what you just talked about with your own path of going through your own trauma and the fear that you had to maybe say something, right? You knew something was wrong, but you trusted what you told your mom for a reason. And whether it was God coming in and God was your coach and supplying you with these kind of thoughts of this is how you're going to do this to give you the courage, or it was something along the way that you learned from someone else or maybe multiple people in your life that led you to that point on your high dive, standing in front of your mom to then have the courage to jump off and help yourself. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting on something so powerful that in the athletic world, I have built up my muscles and my conditioning to do something that everyone can see, right? It comes out externally on that public platform on the front stage. But that's also been really my journey. That inpatient facility experience was a part of my mental, emotional, spiritual, and relational strength. Like I had the physical strength, I had the muscle, I could do all these performances, but I had to start learning how to communicate. That was one conversation with my mom that led to now thousands of conversations that I have on a moment by moment daily basis that I need to have. I don't realize how much more I need to process in life. And each of those times it's a courageous decision to say, yes, I'm going to step into this conversation. I'm going to step in and have this, I'm going to get the help that I need. So that inpatient experience led to asking for more help in more areas that took about 15, 20 years to be fully free from these
Yep.
behaviors that were completely in control of my life.
And a brief comment I'd like to make in using that
Yeah.
front stage, backstage language. You mentioned the conversation with your mom and the inpatient facility. Those are people who you trusted with a backstage pass. Not everyone has access backstage.
Nor should they.
Nor should they. That's not public. But all of us need some people or a group of people who are safe enough, qualified enough, trustworthy enough, and wise enough to have access to those backstage places to help fortify, to kind of scaffold, strengthen what's happening on the inside so that the front stage performance can continue to thrive and excel to the next levels.
And then I'll just interject, but in that recovery journey, God did open the door for me to go to the Olympics in 2012, 25 years old. Wasn't this little 17-year-old anymore, but after being the alternate twice in 04 and 08, it was such an honor to go to the Olympics and know that I had a much greater purpose and really I would say a passion behind being there, not for a medal. That was my main goal originally, was a gold medal. Now it was, who am I supposed to love around this facility? How do I honor the Lord with my best performance here and give it my all, just as I have leading up to this moment? So it was such a cool moment to reach the little girl dream that quit as a 13-year-old to representing the U.S. in a sport I didn't know existed,
And share a little.
That's amazing.
From what I've heard you share, Britt, too, like the transition spiritually, where you describe how it went from, let's say, performing for God to performing with God.
Yeah. Well, really, it was performing for national governing body, my parents, audience members. Like, I cared about everyone's opinion. And when I started learning, like, what if I care about God's opinion about me? And I realized I had this image that if I did a belly flop, but I did my best jump, like I gave my best effort, and it resulted in a belly flop, that God would clap because I did my best. And he's the only one that can see my effort. And so I had this peace as I kept growing and growing in my growth of awareness, but I did have this freedom. I had a freedom to just dive and have fun using the gifts that I had been given. And I had this, if the Holy Spirit lives in me, then he is with me in all of my dives, and he's my best coach, and he's my encourager when I'm alone up on the platform. He's with me. He's going to jump with me, So it was a really fun experience to finish my career like that.
Yeah, I think, Anthony, what you were talking about too is, you have your rocks that you surround yourself with. Those are your people that have the backstage passes. But like you connected now your front stage and your backstage. So you were sound on both sides of it. So you could walk back and forth with this no holds barred approach, because you're just being yourself and going out and enjoying. You're putting in the grind on the front stage part of it. Well, in the backstage as well, the performance part on the front. But I always call it, I feel like I'm bonded to God. I've got a weld that is unbreakable now, between him and me and Jesus and all the angels above. And when I need that comfort, I know I'm going to get that embrace from those angel wings that are going to come down and just swoop me up. And that's a powerful piece that you just touched on, because when you truly open yourself up to that and you can feel the strength, there's nothing in the world that can stop that. Yeah, we get knocked down. We have to still go on with our life at work. We still have our challenges as parents and everything else. Or you still have your challenge of getting up on that platform and diving for an Olympic gold, because you're trying to do it for your country, your parents, everyone that's been supportive to you, and yourself. Yeah. But if you did belly flop, then he's there to be able to pick you up and say, hey, it's okay. And your recovery time, I would imagine, probably that catapulted you even further into your learning how to deal with your trauma. Because do you ever get over that part of that? I mean, with your eating disorder, I would imagine, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that's something you always live with, as long as I always talk about trauma, like my trauma with having PTSD or depression, whatever that may be. As long as I know I can keep my trauma out here in this bubble, I think of it like a sphere. as long as that trauma's in front of me, wherever I go in my life, if I go back to a concert, if I go somewhere where I might be uncomfortable, if that trauma's out here, it's going to give me signs and tell me, as long as I can feel those spidey senses, okay, I need to back off. I need to maybe take a break for a second. I need to go into the restroom and just clear my mind. I need to get some quiet time. I need to take a break. I need to slow my life down. I'm getting too anxious, whatever that is, as long as it's here. But the minute that trauma gets even with me or behind me, I get these like knocking on the back of my skull, headaches, nightmares. My life gets into chaos. I lose my train of thought. I start to stutter my speech. And so I've learned that as my trauma starts to get moved back, there's something I'm doing in my life that's causing my trauma to now get back here and kick me in the back of the head. So do you ever feel that with what you went through and how you live your life today, just trying to keep your trauma out here and adapt?
Yeah. So, I kind of hinted to in childhood, like in the gymnasium, like I realized that that was a traumatic experience for me. And there's different types of trauma. There's trauma that you experience personally. But then there's also secondary trauma. So like I was the witness of a lot of things that were very inappropriate and not okay. And I have a very sensitive spirit. And so I took in a lot of stuff that wasn't mine. So there were girls being told that they were fat and they need to go home and like get on the treadmill for hours, like do cardio constantly. That's what it sounded like. That were beat down for their body image. And then who would have thought 3 years later, 4 years later, I would have been beating myself down with my body and how it was looking, if it looked anything like the girls that were being talked to like that. And so it has been a journey. I did, EMDR for a good 2 to 3 years leading up to the Olympics, which was so powerful. Gosh, like it is amazing what going back into traumatic experiences with the spirit and with wise counsel can do. I had so many memories that were it's almost like rewriting my story. Like I got to talk to my little girl, like Brittany, as a gymnast and say, like, you were talked to inappropriately. They were. This is not a healthy environment that you were in. Like it was unhealthy. It was like validating the truth. Like I could finally validate the wrongs. So when things come up and I get triggered nowadays, like if like someone's raising their voice or someone says something degrading to someone else, it's just something that I realize I have to process. And I have to take, like you said it so well, Todd, you said like keeping it in front of you. And so I journal, like that's one of the most powerful things I do. And one of the tools that through Ferret Flush that we've created, not just this card game, but also books, is we've come up with this ferret out process. So you can process triggering moments and keep them in front of you. And I love that. Like if it moves to the back, you're going to be controlled by it. It's going to take over you versus you getting to walk with others and look at it together. And how do we work through this? I like that, keeping it in front of you.
Yeah. So, well, amazing. It's just a true testimony of your strength and perseverance and your willingness to say yes in the right moment in your life. And I think in the courage that you had to step forward. And that's where it's taken you to meet this guy next to you. So I want to hear about you, Anthony, because you've got a very compelling story as well. And then I'd love for you to take us through your journey, how you met Brittany, and then obviously, I mean, your parents, and then we'll transition into Ferret Flush. But Anthony, you got the grand stage now.
Yeah, thanks. Well, it has been an adventure of a journey for sure. Brittany and I, we met on the dance floor. Well, we first met on my 21st birthday party, but we kind of don't count it because we didn't really remember the experience. Just we have evidence that we were there. We met through a mutual friend who was a teammate of hers. But we were really first connected on the dance floor at that teammate's wedding. And I asked her to dance as I saw this beautiful woman across the dance floor, and she said yes. And as she was putting her arms around me, her weight coach, this big intimidating guy, steps up between us and says to her, "You don't need to be dancing with a guy like that. You need a big football player." And granted, in his defense, I was a scrawny 150-pound, 5'9" guy. not an athlete. I'm a NARP, a non-athletic regular person. But you know, she gets pulled away and I'm like, what just happened? And, you know, I got left stranded on the dance floor. Fast forward, I'm continuing to do my thing that night, and the last song is playing, and I see her across the dance floor once again available. Look around, her coach isn't anywhere around. And so make my second attempt to ask her to dance, and we hit it
You
on.
were going in that night.
That's right. I'm
Yeah,
going in.
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
going in to make the ask, right? That's another application to this one. But
Mhm.
anyways, yeah, we've been dancing ever since. And sometimes it's a chaotic dance, out of rhythm, out of sync. And then other times it is a very intimate, close connected dance. And other times it's just wild, having fun dancing. So part of our journey,
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
you know, we dated for a few years. I proposed to her in London after she was done competing in the Olympics. So she got Olympic rings that trip, as well as an engagement ring that trip.
Unbelievable.
That was a
Wow.
really meaningful experience for us. There they are.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was a
Yeah.
very exciting day.
Lifelong ring.
Yeah.
And so soon after that, we got married, and we had our first son very early, earlier than we had expected. And I had been serving as a youth pastor at that time, started studying in seminary as a student. And so Todd, I was new to being a husband, new to being a father, new to being a pastor, ministry leader, and seminary student, and all these new roles and responsibilities in my manhood began to create such pressure that it began to reveal the cracks of my masculine soul. You know, borrow again from the front stage, backstage analogy we were using earlier, like my backstage was a mess. And but I put up a pretty good front stage, and I coped with the stress of life by secretly turning to unwanted sexual behaviors. So while Brittany had an eating disorder, I had carried into our marriage a sexual addiction that I didn't quite understand. I didn't know what it was doing to me or what it took to find freedom from it. You know, I would have these episodes of abstinence and freedom, and sexual addiction can look all sorts of ways for different people. And I think this is a mature enough audience to not get graphic, but share some specifics. So for me, it was pornography, fantasy, and masturbation. Like those were the three things that were really causing chaos in my life. And so I would secretly turn to those things, and it became, like Brittany described, very risky. Like I began to do it at times in places that were not appropriate, and it was pulling me away from my daytime responsibilities. And Brittany began to see evidence of it and approached me about it and said, "What is this?" She found stuff on my phone, and I lied, I covered up. I was so ashamed that I wasn't willing to own up to what I was doing. And I get it, for some people, like they might not qualify those things as wrong. But for me and for us, it was something we agreed to that we didn't want in our marriage. And it's something that I had conviction for based on my faith and what I see in God's word in the Bible, that it wasn't going to be healthy or helpful for me, and it wasn't God's best for my sexuality.
And also in your parenting, like that was something that he was like, I don't want to pass this off to our son or our children. So generations after. So
to make a very long story short, I disclosed slowly to Brittany the truth, but eventually shared it all and decided, man, I'm going in to get help. And as I went to a facility called Faithful and True out in Minnesota, I went to an intensive workshop they have. Brittany was committed to be on the journey with me, so she went to the women's workshop that they offer.
Also went in
to support partners.
There you go.
And then we went to their couples workshop. Man, we just did anything and everything they had to offer. I was willing to do whatever it took for however long it took, with whoever it took, to find freedom and become well. And I tell you, Todd, that journey cost a lot of time and a lot of money, but I didn't see them as costs. I saw them as investments.
Yeah.
Ended up paying tremendous dividends. We literally had saved up a down payment for a house when all this took place. And we had to come to a point of decision based on our values to say, would we rather have a house and no marriage or broken marriage, or have a thriving marriage and no house? Well, the decision was easy. We went with the marriage. And so we'd
rather be strong together, living in a shack, or keep renting, you know.
So
that's right.
Put our money towards therapy, resources, counseling. I went to individual counseling. She went to individual counseling. We went to couples counseling, did a full disclosure. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But what I discovered in that journey, Todd, is wounds that I had carried, traumas, both capital T and lowercase t trauma, because there's a variety of types of trauma, right, that we can go
Right,
through.
right.
Like
Yep.
acute traumatic events, like, a public shooting or
Mhm.
a physical assault,
Death.
a death of a
Yep.
loved one. Those are
Yep.
capital T traumas that are really big shift immediately, acute in life. But there's also lowercase t traumas, maybe chronic things that happen at a lower scale. Maybe it's teasing, maybe it's receiving the silent treatment or neglect in certain aspects, especially from childhood. These are adverse childhood experiences. And so for me, I had a combination of the two. I had recovered memories of a neighborhood boy who had first exposed me to pornography when I was 7 years old and had also taken advantage of me. And so as I
Mm.
went back to recover these memories and revisit that 7-year-old boy in me, and offer grace and encouragement. And we talked about front stage, backstage, and some people get a backstage pass. I also love to consider how we get a choice to also give God an all access pass. And I
Yep.
think in times of therapy, of joining my faith with therapeutic practices, that I found such tremendous healing and was able to replace false core beliefs about myself, thinking like, I'm not man enough. I don't have what it takes. My voice doesn't matter. Like those things were just on autopilot inside my heart and mind. And so no wonder I felt like a fraud. And no wonder I was trying to run from my anxiety and from my fear by turning to pornography, which never says no, which has a seemingly infinite amount of options to escape and pleasure. But guess what? The pain is still there. It doesn't heal it. It doesn't resolve it. It just grows. So as Brittany and I embarked on this journey towards healing, I've now, by God's grace, have been walking in 8 years sobriety since looking at porn. So what was once like a
That's
daily,
awesome.
times a day struggle, I've been able to now make a change to address the hurt. Be willing, I'm going in to my own heart, to my
Yeah.
own soul, and
Yeah.
invite the Lord in there. And now, man, I discovered as we work with athletes on college campuses through the ministry called Athletes in Action, we've been on staff for the last 8 years together.
Mhm.
And so as I meet with coaches, I meet with athletes and help them grow in their faith and be a spiritual coach for them. Sometimes I share this part of my story. And to no surprise, there will be guys that later come to me, send a message late at night, or ask if they could speak privately, like, hey, this is a struggle for me too. Like, what do you think? What can I do? And so that kind of became like my growing Black Ops ministry, right? It wasn't like
Yeah.
the front stage thing that I did, but more and more it became evident that a lot of people struggle with the same thing that I was struggling with. And in some ways still do, like you described, like it's still in front of me, like it's something I have
Yeah.
to be regularly aware of. Triggers can send me spiraling. So I still have my support system in place. Guys, I turn to my prayer time, I walk with the Lord. But to conclude my part of this story, it's been amazing now where I have sensed more of a turn to go in and help other guys walk from sexual brokenness to sexual wholeness. And Brittany, I help support
Mhm.
couples on that journey. And so, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Ferret Flush, the card game and resources is a piece of that component. But also just, man, being willing to help guys. So that's what I do now. We do now with Athletes in Action is I serve as a director for sexual wholeness. We partner together to offer support for all of our missionary staff, chaplains, on the pro level and on the collegiate level with athletes and coaches.
That's amazing. Yeah. Just your front stage, backstage piece, right? It's so relatable to any capital T, lowercase t trauma that anybody goes through, right? And as a man, you do go through those questions, right? From your adolescence into your singlehood of being in your pre-marriage days into marriage. And then as a wife, you're taking on this man that has all these habits. And then for you guys not to basically go against the grain of what culture or society typically pushes out, like, no, I'm not going to be with you anymore, you're on your own, how dare you did this, and you're out because maybe that physical object of a house or a new car or the job or whatever else influences us way too much in our life, opposed to, no, I'm going to be there with you, I'm going to help you grow through this, because it's not truly who you are. It's just what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a habit that you've created that we're going to get through this, because tough people get through tough times and those hardships stay back.
Yeah.
And it's the tough people that have the courage, right? We're all tough. I always talk about how trauma, things that you went through, Anthony, things that you went through, Brittany, things that I went through, they're all different in terms of our moment that we have been completely hammered and slapped down in life. But we're all tough. We've experienced that. So you can check that big checkbox off. We're tough. Now I've got no one to answer to except for the man upstairs. And when I'm good with him and my relationship is good here all the way across, then I'm free to walk how I want, and I can have the courage to step forward, just like you did, both of you did, in your own ways. And how you're now giving back with Athletes in Action. And like you're talking about, Anthony, the stories, you were given an opportunity to create a story that's going to impact thousands of lives, because people are going to listen to you, and there's going to be those people that have the courage to come up and actually say something to you about it, or text you, whether it's through a virtual, we always hide behind our phones and whatnot, which is fine sometimes, as long as that could be your communication portal to help yourself. If you're not going to put your face out there, that's fine. But it's a device to be able to help you take that step forward to say, I'm going in. I'm going to talk to Anthony about this. I want to know what his thoughts are. How can he help me? He's already been through this, right? It's a relatable story. I talked to SEAL team members with my relatable experiences, Army vets, combat vets, police that have been in mass shootings, firefighters that have lost lives. My relation to them, I'm on that even keel. So if I start telling my story and how, like, the moment of silence that probably you have experienced, and Brittany, you probably experienced, when that trauma all of a sudden encompasses us, and we're in that moment of that silence in our life where it could go either way, right? I can either keep spiraling downhill, and who knows where that's going to go. Probably at some point there's going to be suicidal thoughts and everything, or I'm going to break the silence. I'm going to go in for myself, or someone broke it for me, right? Which I think that's where our rocks and our pals and our backstage pass holders and all these people come in, because they might recognize something. And that's so cool. I mean, watching both of you, for those that are listening, you just have to imagine there's just two really amazing people sitting side by side and laughing. And I loved how, Brittany, you were looking up at Anthony as he's sharing this very vulnerable story, right? And just pouring it out. And you're like, I got you, though. We're together. So it's so cool. That was,
and I mean,
really,
just looking at our story, though, it's like, I'm grateful that I went through what I did, because I did have a unique empathy for Anthony. Like, I know what it's like to do what you don't want to do, yet you keep doing it. And so I was like, I know he doesn't want to keep doing this, but something it's going on that we don't know. And he may not even know. And so when I started learning his story before I met him, oh my gosh, my heart grew sadness came over me for what he has experienced and endured in his life. And the kind of man that he is a miracle, like, based on what he's gone through. And so it was not an easy decision, because pain and the emotion of, like, the weight, the hurt. But man, like Anthony said, like, I don't regret one decision we have made, and I love where we are today.
One important principle I think is to insert here that helped us is we learned that, for me and for her, our unwanted behaviors were attempts to meet a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. And I think for a lot of people, and for us, that helped wrap our minds around this in a different way, where the behavior isn't even necessarily the problem. The behavior is more of a clue to indicate
something else is going on.
What else is going on?
It's like a treasure hunt, like that's like been the perspective we've had.
The analogy I like to use that I'll share briefly is we lived in Miami I was born and raised there, but we lived there throughout our whole marriage until recently. And roaches can be an issue there. In other parts of the world, there might be different kind of pests you deal with. But we had a roach problem in our house, and the pest guy would come and he said, like, yeah, you guys got some sort of issue going on here. But one thing he said that was helpful, he said, you got a crawl space, go down there, see if you find a leak. Because based on the amount of activity you got, chances are there's a leak. So we said, okay, well, guess what? We found 2 leaks. one under the kitchen sink, one under the AC unit. So we called a plumber to repair one. I was able to fix the other one on my own, and we saw diminished activity of the roaches. What does this have to do with what we're talking about? Well, so oftentimes when we see the roaches, we go to squash them, kill them, spray them, get them out of here. And sometimes that's like the equivalent of like porn for me, or the eating behaviors. Like, it's the thing we don't want. It's the thing we want to squash and get rid of it, escape from it. But they're going to keep on coming until we find the leak. And so for me, it was my deeper insecurities, my woundedness, the trauma from my childhood that I had not spent time looking at. That was the leak in my soul that was attracting the roaches of my life. And so discovering what's the legitimate need that I'm having right now, and having that compassion for myself and having compassion for each other in our marriage really ended up, the thing that would destroy most marriages, when you take that posture, ends up being the thing that can bond a marriage. And so for listeners out there, I just want to encourage you, man, maybe you or someone you love is dealing with something that you don't want in your life, or they don't want in their life. Take a posture of curiosity, be united together to explore what's the leak behind the roach here that we can help patch up together.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and some roaches are bigger than others, right? Especially down in Florida.
Oh my gosh, they're so gross. All my kids know I hate them. And then we learned when you kill them, they actually attract more roaches. We were like, what? Like, they send out like a smell to attract their friends. I was like, oh my gosh. So death attracts more. So anyway.
Yeah, true. All right. So I want to talk about
what is
Ferret
that?
Flush. So where did this come from? And let's put this on the grand stage now.
Yeah. Well, I'll just share. I got woken up in 2020, middle of the night in October, and I just was restless. I had these thoughts flooding through me. I was writing in the dark in the middle of the night, and the thoughts kept coming, and I heard create a card game. And a board game was another thing. So that'll be coming in the future. And so I stayed up for 2 hours typing these ideas, and I shared with Anthony in the morning. I think God wants me to create a card game. And within that year, we had a physical card game that people were playing. And what's been so beautiful and surprising about it is I never woke up saying I want to create a card game. And so I am on an adventure that I have no idea where it's leading, but it honors our story, like my story. It has, when the idea of creating the card game came up, it was as if God was like, this is why you went through everything you did. It was all like, it is purposed, it is needed. And this is something that can bring healing and community and love and joy into homes, laughter, and it's grounded in therapeutic practices. And so Ferret Flush, a fun family card game where people can laugh and have fun and grow in their emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Incredible. So the word ferret is not just a reference to the animal. It's also a verb that means to find and bring to light by searching. And so it's got a silly, quirky name, but it's designed to have that silliness. I mean, it's fun. It's hilarious throughout the time you play. You don't even know. Like, I know we're saying in the context of us going through trauma and therapy and going in and these serious subjects, which are important for us to discuss. Yeah. But I want people to know too, like, don't expect when you play this game that it's like, all right, I got to get ready for some form of therapy right now. Like, no, this is like playing apples to apples or Cards Against Humanity if you're into that game with people you love and want to have fun. But you'll discover along the way some cool truths about the power of your thoughts and emotions and actions in response to life's situations.
All right, so give me the 15-second, 30-second instructional piece here. So what we have for those that are watching is we have a bunch of cards, right? This is number one. This is truly awesome that you guys actually created a game. I've never met anybody that's done this. But you have two different sets of cards. And so you've got a card that's labeled, what's the situation? And it has points and it has some form of action. I grew 2 feet taller and wider overnight, right? And then you have the other set where it says play, and it has these emotional responses, oddly inspired, secure the bag, and my bad, y'all. And it's got the ferret that says start here. So explain kind of the overview of the two cards. What's the difference? How does this game kind of happen? What's the situation and then the play?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So it is a competitive card game. It's not just conversation cards, but it's
Yeah.
some winner, they're losers. So here's
So athletes love this.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to compete.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So 3 to 6 creatures can play the game. And it's
Love
similar,
that.
like I mentioned, some other games, apples to apples or things like that. You've got one person starts off as what's called the ferret. It's kind of like the judge. And they flip that blue situation card you referenced earlier. So yeah, like you mentioned, 2 kinds of cards, blue situation cards, red play cards. You shuffle the situation cards, leave them stacked to draw from. The red play cards, you shuffle them and deal 5 to each player. So everyone's got 5 of these play cards to have thoughts, feelings, and
All right.
actions. All right. The ferret flips the situation, reads it for everyone to hear, like,
I grow 2 feet taller,
all right, we'll
wider
use the example
overnight.
you read.
Yeah.
I grew 2 feet
Yeah.
taller, wider overnight. Now, the ferret, that's going to be their situation. So let's say I'm the one that flipped it. Todd, you and Brittany have 5 play cards in your hand, and we're going to go through 3 stages. Stage 1 is going to be thoughts. So you look at your 5 play cards, quietly read the thoughts to yourself, and then send one in to me face down that you think I would pick for that situation. So let's say you each send me one, I read them out, and let's say I pick, this is awesome. Then, and let's say that's Brittany's card. Next, we move to the feeling stage. The 2 of you draw new cards. You always have 5 in your hand. You read the feeling options that you have. Send me one you think I'll pick. You send it in. I pick one, and I think, or I feel enormous. And let's say that was Todd, your card. Now you're 1-to-1. We're going to do the 3rd and final stage, which is actions. So the 2 of you draw a new card. You got 5 in your hand. You read the actions to yourself. You send one in to me. I read them out loud. I pick my favorite, and let's say it's try out for the NFL. Since I grew 2 feet taller and wider overnight, I'm feeling enormous. And let's
that
say
might have been your wild card because
Yeah.
that's not on one of the cards,
And
but I
let's
like
say-
that one.
let's say Todd,
Yep.
that was hard. You won 2 out of the 3. So guess what? You keep that blue situation card that's worth a point, and now we rotate. Brittany's the new ferret, and we keep rotating until we've all been the ferret 2 times. Whoever collects the most of those situation cards at the end of the game wins. And so that's how you play. It's fun. It's zany. It's engaging. You can go as shallow or as deep as you want. So you can even ask questions like, hey, when is the last time you felt enormous? Or like flip one of these
Like
play
when
cards.
I had that bag of popcorn after the ice cream, like
Exactly.
Well, so I've got this. So I grew 2 feet taller and wider overnight.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And my thought is I got to keep it low key. That's what my thought is. I got to keep it low.
Yep.
My feeling is I'm bewildered.
That's good.
Good word.
And my action is I have to overhaul my wardrobe.
Oh, that's perfect.
There
That's
you go.
perfect.
Yeah.
You just actually did one of the ways that you can have a conversation around it. So you could just pick your favorites, make your own 3-story thread off the situation. I'll bet your spouse would play it differently, or your children. They
Right.
do very different threads of thought, feeling, action than you. And that's what's so fun about it. Like we imagine none of us think the same or feel the same, even though the same situation may happen to us. And so that's the part where we wanted people to realize that we can have a heart of empathy for the people around us. And we, instead of making assumptions, how about we get curious?
Yeah. You know what I love about this though, too, is it's clean. Really. It's like some of the games, holy cow, they just are horrible nowadays. And no offense to all the other game makers and creators and all these other things. And I know you got to have fun with it, but man, some of these are just brutal. So anyways, congratulations on that.
Profanity for that reason. We wanted it to be friendly. There is some edgy words in there. So
Like
that's
potty
why
humor.
we say it's 13 and up is the original pack. However, we did create a junior pack for ages 7 and up. So for families with younger kids, basically if your kid can read, they can play this game. It's simpler, lower literacy level, and the game mechanics are a little adjusted too.
Yeah. Well, Ferret Flush. Now, so where do you get this? When's it going out? I know you have a website, and we'll put that up right now on there, and it'll be in the descriptions inside the audio for like Apple, iTunes, and all that stuff. So we'll have links to it. But where do you get this? Where are you at with this right now? What's going on with it?
Yeah, so at ferretflush.com is the best place to find the 2 games. And then we also have 2 books that if people want to start connecting the game to their own life, and go a little deeper, we have the Ferret Out Journal. So we'll show that on the screen.
Yeah.
It's 20 days to ferret out. You simply take 2 minutes to write down a recent situation that impacted you. What did you think? How did you feel? And what did you do about it? And so Anthony and I use this in our marriage to reflect if something impacts us in a certain way. We're living near my parents right now, so that can be, impact Anthony very differently than me, and it starts a great conversation. And then the other book that we created was the discipleship workbook, the Ferret Flush discipleship workbook. And this is for anyone that's open to faith and how does faith and emotional growth come together. It's 6 chats where you can play the game as the icebreaker, and then you go into a study to ferret out, and then you read a real life story, basically dive into scripture. And this is all going to be around situations in life, thoughts, feelings, actions. And then there's an equipping tool every single week. So we have the emotional word wheel in here. We have a thought exchange that basically we can choose the thoughts that we have, destructive thoughts versus empowering thoughts. There's an emotional continuum that basically, like, what do you do when you experience an emotion? Do you like deny that you even have them, to are you controlled by them? And the posture that we have is, how about you discover through them? Like, we believe there's gems in our emotions. So there's some really great tools in the discipleship workbook. All of them are on ferretflush.com. The original pack is on Amazon. The junior pack, man, there's some children's restrictions that you have to have. We basically missed a couple of text on our box. So
really?
It'll be on Amazon in the future.
Yeah. Wow. That's truly inspiring, amazing. Congratulations on that. I mean, I always find it intriguing that through our life's journey and all the experience we've had, whether it was being in a major league clubhouse back in the day, or going fishing with Todd Blyleven on Lake Minnetonka while you were a baby, because what an experience that was. I'm just kidding. But just how life's experiences has, especially in both your cases, has brought you to this amazing tool. And then sharing your stories and your testament through Athletes in Action. And yeah, you both just look super happy. And that's kind of where we always want to be, right? You want to, through our perseverance, our hard work, our being knocked down in our life, you want to aspire to see that light. And you both have it. So don't lose it. Stay in the sunshine. Be there for each other. It's amazing. And I think for those that might be struggling with their marriage or their relationships, whatever that would be, know that you're not alone, right? Give up the physical, go with the mental, take care of your backstage. It's super important. So, but thank you both for being on. I'm going in. This was really an honor. So
thanks, Todd. It's been a pleasure to be on here. And I think it's worth mentioning, since you just encourage other people, I think it's good for them to know that we have certifications in life coaching and sex addiction professional. So we could also serve as a resource for those listening who are like, man, what they shared, I'd love to get. Maybe can Brittany and Anthony be given a backstage pass in my life? The answer is yes to that.
Yeah.
We can serve you in that way. And so our information will also be available, but whether through ferretflush.com or some other means, if you want to reach us, you can. And through the Ferret Flush card game, we've also been developing play shops and facilitators training. So for larger organizations who want to use these for example, we're talking to the YMCA who want to use these in their after school programs. So maybe you're a listener and you kind of have maybe a larger sphere of influence. You think this game could serve your organization. We'd be glad to talk about what that can look like.
That's amazing. Yeah, I see there's so many applications to this all the way through and through. So, all right, this is part 1. So this is chapter 1. Yeah,
you could probably get a couple
to our backstage
one.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, thank you again, and you guys just you made my day. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd. You made our week, bud.
Thank you for inviting us on. And I have loved to continue to hold those words if I'm going in as a reminder to keep going in courageous ways, not just like career focused or climb the ladder of what society believes, but I want to go in ways that are even harder and more unique, which are usually digging deeper into myself to connect with other people that have been put around us. So thank you for that inspiring, those words to just keep going in where God has us.
Amen to that. So
Thank you, Todd.